weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. Budget airlines were designed to help you save some money, but now more of them are starting to embrace premium features. Budget flyers now have several options to make their flights feel a little more bougie. Let's connect the dots. Spirit and Southwest are both rolling out premium options that allow travelers to pay for perks like better seats or in-flight experiences. For Spirit, folks paying a higher price can get bigger seats, in-flight snacks, and priority boarding. Southwest is even abandoning its famous open seating model, hoping people will pay more for a guaranteed seat. These airlines hope these options will allow them to charge more for tickets and offset high fuel and labor prices. With a recent abundance of competitors, low-cost airlines have had to get creative with how they generate revenue. And that is connecting the dots.
Thank you. As kids start to head back, one item off the back-to-school checklist that parents will want to check off: that yearly physical. And for parents in South Carolina, there are some changes to the vaccine schedule you should be aware of. WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg explains in today's Verify.
Well, this year, the South Carolina Department of Public Health made changes to its vaccine requirements. But does it mean kids have to get more shots? Let's verify. Our sources, the South Carolina Department of Public Health, Dr. Brennan Traxler, the Chief Medical Officer for the South Carolina Department of Public Health, and Dr. Carlos Paxter, a pediatrician at Carolina Pediatrics. According to the South Carolina Department of Public Health, none of these are newly required vaccines. Instead, the changes reflect the fact that more grade levels are being added. Dr. Traxler says it's basically just a timeline change.
We have not added any required vaccines to the schedule in at least several years. And so it is just the age at which people are now being required to get them.
There is a reason why these vaccines have been scheduled at specific times, and is so that your immunity is induced at a certain age.
The changes are on your screen. They affect incoming 4th, 9th, 10th, and 12th graders. Dr. Traxler says if you haven't already gotten your kids' vaccines, you'll want to book an appointment soon. If you can't get in before the start of school, there is a grace period.
I think it is up to a 30-day kind of grace period, but they do need to communicate with the school about that. They do need to provide what documentation they have. And sometimes the school may have them fill out a form just attesting that they're getting it.
So we can verify that no, the vaccine timeline changes from the South Carolina Department of Public Health does not mean kids have to get more vaccines than before. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
If you have something you would like verified, just email us at verify@wcnc.com.
Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here with an update on Debbie. Some good news, some bad news. I guess the good news, some drier air is pulling into the system, which means it's not going to get much stronger, and it's also going to help reduce the rainfall totals. The bad news is somebody's still going to get clobbered. The area getting clobbered has shrunk a little bit, if that makes sense. I'll talk about that in today's vlog. Now, trust me, there's still rain on the way. It's just those biblical totals have been reduced quite a bit in some areas, which is a good thing. So let me show you the overall view, and you can see it's a circulation. I mean, it's a broad circulation, and broad circulations are actually good because the tighter these get in the middle, you usually tend to see things kind of get stronger. It is over water, and this is a good example of why just being over warm water, folks, doesn't mean the storm goes crazy. There are other structural things in the storm, including wind shear, dry air, and the internal structure that really allow for storms to tap into that rocket fuel of warm water. You could have all the gasoline in the world. If you don't have an engine to stick it in, it's useless. So sometimes I think we get too simplified and like, it's over warm water, it should be going crazy. It's not the way it works in the atmosphere. There's a lot of other things going on. And so what's going on is the circulation in the middle has got dry air that's been entrained. Now, a couple things to note. You're probably saying, oh, it's a bust, it's not going to happen. Here's the thing. There are still these huge rain bands developing on the northeast side, and there's also a big rain band developing on the south side that's going to rotate around. The other thing to notice here is there's a big plume of moisture on the east side, so we're not kind of in the clear for heavy rain. I'm going to show you the water vapor loop. I showed you this yesterday and with the little Debbie joke, and some people didn't get it, but what water vapor is, it's a satellite image, okay, and it shows the amount of moisture in the top of the atmosphere down to the ground. So you see the dry air getting entrained in here, But the other thing you notice, it makes kind of a cinnamon roll, or in my joke, a Swiss roll look. And you see this cut quite often in large low pressure systems. But what I'm also noticing on this water vapor loop is this gigantic fire hose on the east side of the circulation that's still up here. You've got high pressure over Bermuda, which is helping to funnel in moisture. You've got the low, which is Debby, and you've got a trough over here coming in that's going to pick it up. All of this is pulling in moisture. So somebody's going to get that fire hose. The question is, where does it go? The one thing that this dry air has done, it's helped reduce the totals today across the Grand Strand down to Charleston. They got clobbered yesterday. They don't need any more rain. So this is actually a good thing for them. The question is, as this tracks north and we get into the heating of the day, which is going to help these rain bands re-intensify with storms, as it pushes up in here, where does this fire hose go? Does it come back into Charlotte? And there's a pretty good chance that it does head back towards Charlotte. So let's look at the flash flood guidance for today. So the flash flood guidance for today shows a small area around Myrtle Beach to Wilmington with the extreme flood risk. For Charlotte, we're in the low, medium, and then the red is the high. But watch what happens as we go into tomorrow. That risk begins to shift inland, and that puts Charlotte into the high risk again, and that extreme risk shifts into areas of central and eastern North Carolina. So we still have that risk, and the reason we expect this to happen, because as the circulation moves inland, a couple things happen. It pulls these rain bands in, but once the system gets over land, you start getting development of showers and storms in the heating of the day over water, or that are over land that typically don't happen over water as easily. So you're going to see storms develop around this. And then we go into Friday, the risk shifts north, and then, boy, this becomes a big issue for New York, Pennsylvania, up into the Northeast, but our threat begins to go down. So let's look at the future cast. All right, so we'll start about noontime today. You can see the rain bands becoming more active. We'll go to about dinner time here. We'll stop this around 5:30. You can see we do expect bands to start wrapping up as this thing gets closer, but still okay in the Charlotte area. If you're on the coast down to South Carolina, this is where things could get nasty. So later today, as the heating of the day develops, I expect we will see the area that's in the extreme risk fill in today. And that's where problems happen, because once this band begins to form, even with the dry air wrapping around, what happens is this thing could close off, and that moisture plume, that fire hose I showed you, is still pumping water into here. And so these rain bands become more active. So don't discount the fact that, hey, the storm is weaker, there's some dry air in there. There's still going to be a heavy rain band. The difference is, instead of a huge area being impacted by the rain band, it's this narrow corridor. And where does this go? Does it go this way? Does it go this way? Either way, it looks like it's going to have a big impact. And I'll show you what I mean. So this is 10 p.m. tonight. We go into the evening hours, no real issues except for from Florence, Lumberton to Wilmington to Fayetteville. This is when the rain really ramps up. And then look at the overnight hours. This is 2, 3 in the morning. That rain band starts to pivot. And by tomorrow morning, from Raleigh to Charlotte, that rain band sets up. So it's all about tracking this major rain band tomorrow. And that rain band over us in the Charlotte area during the morning commute, I mean, this is going to be a long morning tomorrow. If that rain band camps on us like that, again, if that rain band is going to be producing 1 to 3 inches of rain per hour, you could do the math. I mean, just at a minimum, let's say it's over us by 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, you could see how even an inch per hour is going to start totaling up to 6, 7, 8 inches quickly. And there's indications it could be over us for longer than that. So that's why we can't let our guard down just yet, even though I do think the totals will be less. The biggest concern for me is not that we'll see widespread 4 to 6 inches, but one narrow band somewhere over an urban setting or an area that has poor drainage is absolutely going to. This is 5 o'clock Thursday, and look at the rain still over us. Okay, we go to 6, 7, 8. After sunset into tomorrow night, the system begins to shift north, and you see the flash flood risk shift to the north. So Friday is looking fine. It's really Thursday, and honestly, from a time. Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. We're tracking Tropical Storm Debby, still lingering off the coast of South Carolina, not moving that much, 2 to 3 miles per hour. So we're still waiting for that main rain band to get up here, which is likely not going to happen for at least another 6 to 7 hours or so. So you're looking at probably early tomorrow morning as this main rain band moves up, but it is producing a lot of flooding rains. Let me zoom in on this rain band we're talking about right here. You see it on the map. It's this big old band of rain right here, which eventually is going to pivot back over the Charlotte area as we get into the early morning hours tomorrow and kind of sit over us for most of the day. If we look at the local Doppler radar, we'll show you there are some flood warnings associated with that and actually a tornado warning down there in that band. Now, we're not expecting tornadic weather in our vicinity, but that heavy rain band is going to produce quite a bit of flash flooding. You see all the flood warnings currently in effect in that area as it pushes up from the south. Now, the flood watch, we've talked a lot about this. The flood watch has been slowly expanded back to the west based on the fact that we're likely going to see more rain pushing west of I-77 over time. So the timing of all this timing graphic kind of shows you exactly what we're thinking. Probably after 2 a.m. I really think it's probably closer to 4 or 5 a.m. And the worst weather is going to be during the morning hours on Thursday until probably late afternoon, early evening tomorrow. So there's likely about a 12-hour window, let's say 6, 7 in the morning to about 6, 7 at night. So really the daylight hours that we're going to see the worst weather during the day tomorrow. That flash flood outlook, or what we call the excessive rainfall outlook, shows tonight mainly off to our south and east, but tomorrow notice all of our area in red. That's why we are staying weather aware tomorrow for the potential for flash flooding. That does include Taylorsville, Statesville, Hickory, Mooresville, Salisbury, Concord, Kannapolis, Charlotte, Huntersville, Gastonia, Belmont, Mount Holly, Lincolnton, Rock Hill, Fort Mill, Tunkhannock, Waxhaw, Weddington, Monroe. All of those areas and all those counties in the high impact risk area. How much rain could we see? Now, a lot of this is going to fall over just the next 24 to 36 hours. Even though this is a 7-day rainfall graphic, you can see 4 to 6 inches with, I would say, the majority of that falling tomorrow into early on Friday. So let's go hour by hour. This will show you the timeline as the Futurecast shows both the wind speeds and the rain. So you could see by midnight, the rain starting to push towards Wadesboro. As we get closer to 4 in the morning, the rain should just be starting to enter Mecklenburg County. It's going to be raining in Union, Lancaster, Anson, Stanley, Richmond, Chesterfield, likely most of Cabarrus County. As we get closer to 5 a.m., it's raining in Charlotte along I-85. And then after 7 a.m., really during the morning rush, the rain really picks up. That heavy rain band camps out kind of over us. And you'll see, even though the thing is rotating here, the rain band just sitting right over the same area for most of the day. So that heavy rain is going to cause flash flooding all the way through 6 o'clock. So I talked about that time frame, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning there till about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, that rain band kind of sits over us, then starts to pivot back towards the northwest. Wind speeds peak out somewhere around 35 to 40 miles per hour. And these are gusts, by the way. These are not sustained winds. So you're looking at wind gust here. Up to 35 to 40. You combine that with the heavy rain, you're certainly going to see some flash flooding. Now, the good news, once we get to tomorrow night, the wind will shift to the southwest, and that southwest wind eventually brings in the drier air and kicks the system out here. So as slow as Debby is moving right now, that pickup in speed should actually help us out. So what you need to be prepared for tomorrow and what the impacts are going to be, primarily flash flooding and gusty winds. Avoid flooded roadways. Watch out for trees and power lines that could come down. Possible power outage. I don't think this will be widespread. It's always hard to tell. You get the wrong tree to fall in the wrong spot, it could take down power for a lot of people. You could have a bunch of trees down that don't hit any power lines. So this is kind of a hit or miss kind of setup, but I do think we will see at least isolated power outages tomorrow. And for that reason, we want you to charge up all your devices. Be ready to have power out for a while, because obviously when it's raining like that and windy, you're not going to see the linemen out there doing much of anything until the conditions become more favorable. So they're going to wait until it's safe to head out. So let's go hour by hour tomorrow with our forecast. And this is mainly for the Piedmont. You can see 7 a.m. through 7 p.m. Not often that you see a graphic like that from us where we have pretty much a 100% chance of rain that entire time. We hear the term washout a lot. Tomorrow is definition of a washout. Notice the temperatures only in the mid 70s, primarily because of all the clouds and showers, and also notice the winds. As long as the winds are out of the northeast, that tells us that the system is not past us yet. When we see the wind shift to the west or southwest, that will be a signal that we're starting to see the system pull north and move out of the region. And that's actually when we should start to see things dry out. Just to show you why we could see some power outages tomorrow, trees will fall in this setup. We have gusts between 30 and 40. Again, not sustained, likely sustained 15 to 20. But when the ground gets saturated, those roots and that root ball become completely loose in the soil, and you push on the top of the tree. And if the root ball isn't strong enough and gets wet, you can actually uproot trees pretty easily, and you'll start to see some trees come down. So don't be surprised if that happens tomorrow. It's really not the wind per se, it's the combination of the wind and the heavy rain that is going to cause issues. So let's go back to the radar. I'll show you that real quickly. What we're watching here tonight and what we'll be tracking tonight at 11 here on WCNC is that heavy rain band, which you see on the map. It's essentially this band here, which is on the northwest side of the low. If the low is down in this area, once that low tracks up here, it's going to pull that band back over the Charlotte area, and that is what's going to cause us issues tomorrow through the middle of the morning all the way until late evening. So we're still keeping an eye on the system as it moves up here. I'll show you the 8 o'clock advisory real quickly. Not that there's much change here. The track is pretty straightforward. This was the 8 p.m. what we call intermediate advisory for Tropical Storm Debby. And Debby is still pushing to the north at only about 3 miles per hour. Winds sustained right now around 60, but those winds are way off to the east, so they're not really anywhere near the center. And those are going to probably stay offshore, so that's why the wind gust over us will be much lower, probably half of that, closer to about 30 to 35 miles per hour. So that's a quick update on Debby. Of course, we'll have more coming up tonight at 11 right here on WCNC Charlotte. But be prepared, stay weather aware tomorrow because of this heavy rain moving in. But the good news is it's just tomorrow. If you have plans for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, we should see rapid improvement as we go into the weekend. Have a great night, stay safe, and stay weather aware.
And then the closing ceremony
On
will
Sunday.
take place on Sunday. Yeah.
Still a lot to look forward to, so keep it right here, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.